Hello, Minnesota sports fam. Welcome back. Another episode of the MSF show. I am your host, Eric Strack, founder of Minnesota Sports Fan and minnesotasportsfan.com. Here is my little brother, Caleb, in the little window next to me, where he belongs. Caleb, how are you today?
Doing well, Eric. Ready to attack another day breaking down the sports world in the way we do.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's whether we're writing it or talking about it or, our life. I guess if you think of it this way, like the kid versions of Caleb and Eric would just be ecstatic with their livelihoods right now. They'd be like, "Man, just doing sports stuff all day. Life is good." And life is good. Don't get me wrong. It is more stressful than little Eric would have understood back then. But, that's kind of the way it is with all of adult life. So you'll have that.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right. This is all I've ever wanted, Eric.
All right. On that note, before we get going too fast, hot and heavy here, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Need all the help over there that we can get. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure you're following. Thank you for watching, everybody. All right, Caleb, let's get into it.
All right. What do you want to hit first? Twins, Vikings, or Wolves, even?
Let's go Vikings. Let's give the people what they want, because otherwise we'll spend 45 minutes on Twins and Timberwolves because I just start talking and
It's
then we won't
important.
have enough time for Vikings.
Those are important topics too.
Yeah, kind of. Tell that to the clicks.
Yeah, well, that's one thing. All right, we'll start with Vikings. We didn't have a show yesterday, so we didn't talk at all about Kevin O'Connell's press conference yesterday, where he detailed JJ McCarthy's injury a little bit deeper, called it a deltoid sprain. He also got into the plan for tomorrow night, Friday night's game in Denver, preseason game 3, which includes hopefully starting JJ McCarthy and then Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer to follow that up. But then there was some interesting reporting last night that you've written about coming out of Alec Lewis from the Vikings Collective podcast, where he talks about basically that Carson Wentz is definitely going to be the QB2. And not only that, but then that could lead to conversations about JJ McCarthy's future if he's not happy with hanging around in the quarterback 3 role, which I guess we're all sort of assuming he wouldn't, or a lot of the reporting / whatever you want to call it has been suggesting he wouldn't. Jason LaCanfora suggested that he probably wouldn't. Charlie Walters has suggested that he probably wouldn't, it seems like, in his latest. So let's go down that road first and hear your thoughts on all the latest of the Minnesota Vikings quarterback battle, which is not even quarterback battle, QB2 battle. And I just thought, I just think it's interesting. Like, we haven't talked about Kyler Murray at all in the past freaking week or two, it seems, or not anybody really hasn't been talked about as much.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm actually because you reminded me of this earlier today, and we actually I actually got our screen ready. We have a screen to show tweets and videos and everything else. So since we're talking about this, we might as well actually play the clip that we're talking about here. This is from the a new podcast called The Vikings Collective with Matthew Collar, Alec Lewis, and Garrett Greenlee. Make sure that you go and subscribe to that podcast after you subscribe to ours, of course.
Right.
But here it is. Let me flip screens.
New podcast. It's our 5th episode. I've already told you this.
That's a new podcast, bro. Come on. That's new enough. All right, here we are.
Probably more than us in the last month.
Yeah, that's that was unnecessary. All right.
My bad.
So here it is. This is the 16:30 mark, and here's Alec Lewis. Actually, I'm gonna back it up like 10 seconds. Oh, he's on mute as well. Here we go.
Quarterback who could be the franchise guy that this team really has not had extensively in a long, long time, which is an understandable, I think, perspective and
Here comes.
psychology. So I lead you down the road of, to Collar's point, like my expectation right now, and this is just based on conversations, but also what I've seen, is that Carson Wentz is definitely going to be the backup for the Minnesota Vikings. And so that would then lead you down the road of JJ McCarthy as the number 3 quarterback. How okay is he going to be with that? I think that's a very valid question. If he's not okay with that, does that end up leading to a conversation about, is this the end of the road? So Garrett, part of me just wants you to, give your thoughts on.
All right. So that's Alec Lewis essentially saying Carson Wentz is going to be the Vikings starter, or the Vikings not starter, the Vikings QB2. And then beyond that, what happens with J.J. McCarthy? Now, this is something that obviously everybody has been questioning over and over again, but to this point, from what we know, he's played good soldier, because this was the same conversation that we were having when he was demoted when he was not picked to be QB1. This was the exact same conversation that we had. Right. He came out the next day after it happened, talked with media, said, nope, I'm a Viking. I want to be a Viking. This is where I want to be, blah, 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 blah. And so since then, that has kind of squashed that entire conversation. Now, what happens when he gets moved to QB3? And to me, QB3 is extra interesting because QB3s are not always active. So if they were going to keep J.J. McCarthy on the active 53-man roster, then they would have to roll into every game day this year with one less active player on their roster. Otherwise, he becomes the emergency backup, which means he suits up and everything else, but he's not listed as an active player unless both quarterbacks ahead of him get hurt, and then he goes in as an emergency, essentially 54th man on the roster, break glass in case of emergency type of option. So that, to me, is the most interesting factor of the Carson Wentz versus J.J. McCarthy, because that was kind of the first time it has been really said out loud by an insider that Carson Wentz is definitely going to be your starter, or I keep on saying starter, your QB2.
Quit.
So that's kind of the first time that he's done that. So, but before that, and Caller gets into it on this episode a little bit, where he's like, we already kind of knew this. It's like, well, then say it out loud, write it, put it in a podcast, whatever. But we all did kind of subtly understand that more than likely it was going to be Carson Wentz, because if you've been watching the games, the only people who thought that it could still be J.J. McCarthy pretty much at this point, I feel like, even before we just heard that from Alec Lewis, were the people who are not paying attention to every single game, to every single practice, watching the local beat writers or beat reporters, reading the local beat reporters. If you are looking down from 5,000 feet, if you're only following the Ian Rappaports of the world, the Adam Schefters, if somebody else is your favorite team, then it's possible you might have thought J.J. McCarthy had a chance, A, to win the starting job, and these last few weeks probably had no doubt, because Kevin O'Connell kept on saying over and over again, oh, no, he's our starter. You never know what might happen. I mean, everybody's battling for their position in the NFL, blah, 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 but he was telling everybody publicly that it was J.J. McCarthy who was going to be QB2, just like he was telling everybody publicly that it was a real competition between him and Kyler Murray. The fact that he can't even beat out Carson Wentz for QB2 tells you exactly how much of a real competition it was for QB1. And it's kind of the same thing that we're getting right now. We all kind of know where this is going, knew where this was going about a week or two ago. Now it's just about who's going to say it out loud first. Is Kevin O'Connell actually going to come to the podium? Is it going to come from a depth chart? Is it going to come from Alec Lewis, others, Adam Schefter tweeting it out officially? Carson Wentz is Vikings QB2. I don't know how it's going to end up officially breaking. You could call Alex pretty close, about as close as it's going to get to officially breaking without breaking. But everybody kind of knew that it was happening. Now it's, what do we do? How does J.J. McCarthy react? That's now what we're looking at. How does he react to being QB3?
Yeah, maybe they've had a plan in place to unload him or trade him this whole time. I mean, Florio's been saying, that there's a decent chance they waive him or whatever as part of the cut down. So it's like, I really don't know. Obviously, if he stays on his queue as whatever, we may not know. We may not get an announcement until we go to play the Packers week 1, right? Or like can see it on the depth chart or see who's dressing or.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I guess it would be a depth chart would be the other option.
Yeah, well, the depth chart is going to be the ultimate deciding factor, and the reason why it's the ultimate deciding factor is because we can't only have 2 active QBs, but if Carson Wentz and JJ McCarthy are both active, then it's Carson Wentz. The only reason why you would make JJ McCarthy active in that situation is to say JJ McCarthy is active, and he's probably going to be mad if he's not active, so we're just going to make him active.
Maybe.
If McCarthy was a QB2, you're not going to have Carson Wentz on the active roster. Because the only reason why you would need him if McCarthy is a QB2 is in case of emergency. So you wouldn't fill that roster spot. So it really doesn't make much sense at all to carry 3 quarterbacks on the roster. And so if you assume that they're not going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster on game day, then it comes down to who is on the roster. Is it Carson Wentz or is it J.J. McCarthy? One's going to be on the roster, one's not. And if both of them are on the roster, then we go back to what we talked about before, where Kevin O'Connell needs to worry about controlling the things that he can control and not what everybody else is going to do and think about. Like, again, if all 3 are active, it wouldn't be for a football reason. It would be keeping somebody happy, like trying to do things outside of let's put the best 53 men on this roster that we might need this week. But I honestly, I don't see that happening. The more I talk about it, the more likely I feel like it is going to be 2 quarterbacks active and you have an emergency and go from there. So it's just about who would be on that depth chart.
Yeah, I mean, based on that, I guess what do you think's going to shake out?
Well, it's going to be Wentz. It's going to be Wentz. I don't know what McCarthy's going to do.
So what's going to happen with McCarthy?
I don't know. I would just be going based off of all of the reports that we're seeing, and all of the reports are mixed because as much as we're seeing, I don't know if J.J. McCarthy would be happy in Minnesota. That seems like a lot of reporting based on previous reporting. Like last summer and earlier this year, we've been reporting over and over again that McCarthy might not be happy. So why would we change the narrative now unless his agent has called us up and told us that he's staying? If that hasn't happened, then we're going to continue to push that narrative. There are other reports that have been kind of floating around, or not even reports, but just like talk on the radio, on KFAN, or talk on podcasts, like when J.J. McCarthy threw the pass to Tay Felton. I guess the whole sideline went ballistic. And not because they all love Tay Felton, I'm sure they do, but because they seem to have an affinity for J.J. McCarthy despite
they do like him.
All of the and that, to me, that part of it is what makes it hardest for me to read. Because there's too much of the Brian O'Neill coming out and saying, we love J.J. McCarthy, and too much of the random reports that the locker room loves J.J. McCarthy. Well, if we think J.J. McCarthy is going to demand out or cause some sort of huge distraction or whatever these things are that are going to force J.J. McCarthy out of town, we're not getting that from the players. There's not a lot of leaks coming out that J.J. McCarthy isn't liked around the locker room or whatever. That is the one thing that's really like pulling me back, because how much of this distraction is a distraction because it's the preseason? Because Kyler Murray is not playing, because we're not worried about who's winning, what else is there to worry about? Like, the obvious thing is JJ, like literally JJ McCarthy and his status. It not only is it important and do people care about it in the pantheon of all football NFL topics, but all of those football and NFL topics are gone. That's a worthy topic when we're at the height of, oh my gosh, look at all this news today. What about when it's preseason and no starters are playing? Like, of course we're going to focus on McCarthy versus Wentz versus what happens when McCarthy, if he doesn't get named QB2, what does he do next? We have nothing else to focus on. Once
Well,
this
he's a former first-round pick. Like,
I get that. But my thing is, once we get past this, once we even get past, let's say he does go to QB3 as expected, and let's assume, just for this scenario, he doesn't demand out, and then Kevin O'Connell does the common sense thing, and he is the inactive emergency quarterback on Sundays. Week 1, that's a storyline. Everybody will probably be talking about it. Is JJ going to be okay with this? Blah, blah, blah. But let's say all that ends up being is that, just storylines. Nothing's confirmed. JJ doesn't come out and request a trade. Adam Schefter doesn't come out and report a trade, that he wants a trade or whatever. By week 2, is it still a story? Week 3, if it's all quiet, if McCarthy doesn't comment on it, doesn't demand out, week 4, is it still a story? No, by then we're like, the Vikings are 3-1, Kyler Murray's doing this, Vikings are 1-3, Kyler Murray sucks. Then it might be, get JJ McCarthy in there. Like, it's going to be about the football happening on the field. Is Harrison Smith coming back? Does the secondary suck? It's going to be a lot less of what are they going to do with JJ McCarthy at the end of the season. So how much of this, my point is, going back all the way to the locker room, wrapping it all the way back to the locker room, is this being mostly created by us, by media, because this is the storyline that we have to talk about? This is a storyline that when we write articles about it, do podcasts about it, this is what the fans want to read about right now? Are we creating this? Are we creating this supposed distraction? Because if J.J. McCarthy isn't creating this distraction, then by week 2, week 3, there probably isn't a distraction. So that's my thing, is the stuff about McCarthy when it comes to Florio. Is that just Florio speculating? That causes all of this fallout and all of this reaction, and now they're getting questions about it because Florio's writing about it, because Alec Lewis talked about it in his podcast. Now we're talking about it. Now the next time before the game, O'Connell's going to speak again. He's going to be asked about it again. That's us creating this. Us, not like creating a narrative, but the fans and the media wanting to know more about this situation. But if it's not locker room created drama, then it'll probably just end. Which, again, that it all comes back to McCarthy. And because of all the things I explained, I don't know where his head is at. So it's impossible for me to even get into my conspiracy theories, because I just gave you all the places my head is going, but I don't have enough information one way or the other to go, it's probably leaning this way, because there's so much going on, and all the anti-McCarthy, all the this is going to be a distraction stuff, it doesn't seem like any or a lot of that at all is coming from the locker room. Like, look at the Caleb Banks stuff. We're going to get into that. That came directly from the Vikings organization, according to Pauline. Like, that is, you want to talk about locker room created drama, like, that is locker room created drama. From what we know, the stuff going on with McCarthy doesn't every time teammates have gotten asked about it, whether it's QB1, QB2, like 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, it's always in the middle, cut down, like, we don't want to offend this person, we don't want to offend that person, we don't care who the quarterback is, we're all in this together. There just isn't a lot of steam, like actual steam, that there's going to be all this drama coming from McCarthy. But again, the Alec Lewis wondering about it, people are wondering about it, but there's just no officially reported, like, they're not happy with McCarthy. If you watch the episode that we just watched a clip of that Vikings Collective podcast, you cannot watch the J.J. McCarthy part without coming out thinking there might be a locker room schism. There might be something going on. Kevin O'Connell might be sick and tired of J.J. McCarthy. You can't walk away from that. But again, it's all just them taking quotes from Kevin O'Connell in his press conference and going, that's kind of a weird thing to say. And this is weird, like when he's talking about J.J. McCarthy should have stayed in for another series. And I really...
Well, Well, and
I really want JJ McCarthy to start. Like they're taking those things and going, that's not something O'Connell. It almost sounds like O'Connell's challenging McCarthy. That's about as far as
they're saying like it's side shots. I mean,
right, but that's as far as like it goes. Like there is no further drama there. They're like,
well, a little bit, except for them bringing up like last year and with his injuries last year and how it was never like a. One of them said, I don't know, I can't remember which one, but that he never would like, there was never a play where he got like carted off. It was always this random like injury popping up after this.
right.
And so I mean, that's part of the like,
and again, but again, though, those are like hinting at
looking
things.
through the lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without like somebody in the organization is telling me that this happened. They're pulling out the JJ McCarthy, he got injured, or like they went all the way back to when he hurt his knee and the night practice and how he played the game. He played the preseason game right before that. Everything seemed fine. And then out of nowhere, he's got an injury. And those weird sorts of things seem to always pop up, almost like JJ McCarthy says he feels a certain way, and the Vikings don't necessarily think that it's that serious or it's more serious. There's always like some sort of disconnect there, but it's them
I mean, we know for sure with
context
that it was
and like trying to lead us places. And if they have insider information, it's like they're trying to lead us to like a couple blocks from the watering hole and then going, all right, now you do this, this, and this, and this, and you'll be at the watering hole. They're not like taking us there like Pauline did with the Caleb Banks and going sources from inside the Vikings organization and saying, here is the water, here is where I'm getting it from. And that's the only thing that has me hesitant, because with all of the steam about possible drama that JJ McCarthy could cause, you would think there would be one player, one anonymous source, something, because you know they're all digging for it. So, like, why aren't they getting it? But yet they all continue to float this idea that there could be some drama. It's just, the whole thing is just a little bit, I mean, it's all kind of read between the lines all the time with this stuff, but there are some situations like this one where there's something like blurring. Like, as you're looking through your fingers, there's like something blurring so you can't quite see what's causing all of this chatter. And this is one of those situations where I'm ready for it to happen. Like, I'm ready for Friday. I'm ready for him to be named a QB3, and then let's fucking see, like, where are the reports? Where's Adam Schefter with the, JJ McCarthy wants out? Like, I'm ready to, like, see it, because I'm kind of at a fork in the road that I don't know how to get past.
Well, you're not supposed to care, remember. It doesn't even matter what happens with the backups or who the backup is or anything that's ever happened in the past. It's all in the past, so we never talk about it again.
We talked about this, Caleb. Collar's getting off of Diet Dr. Pepper. He's got back problems.
I would be pissed, too.
He's got a lot of stuff. See, he's got a lot of stuff going on. He's not in the best moods right now. You got to cut the guy some slack.
In all seriousness, I hope he feels better.
There you go. Touching.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so to wrap that up, basically, you don't know for sure what's going to happen.
I don't know. I'm stuck in the middle, and that's why Ted and I have gone back and forth in our Slack group chat, because he is convinced that JJ McCarthy's gone. If you follow Ted on Twitter, then you will know that.
I mean, he thinks that he could never. I don't think he thinks he could complete a pass in the NFL again.
Well, right, but he also just thinks kind of along the lines of what you were talking about, where it's just going to be even if he's not demanding a trade, the distraction is just going to be too much. And we talked about it yesterday when we watched this clip. We watched the clip of Collar and Lewis together, and we talked about that like it's difficult to come away from that episode thinking that there won't be drama behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But once again, when you actually look for where is the evidence that there will actually be drama, it all goes back to over a year ago. It all goes back to the offseason when we were thinking about bringing Aaron Rodgers in, and then there were reports that if we bring in Rodgers, then you might get a hissy fit out of J.J. McCarthy. Right. And ever since then, it's kind of always been on the surface level. Like, are they being careful because J.J. McCarthy will freak out? But I just... Where is, like, I want another report.
Yeah, I mean, I would say another one, and I can't even remember where this came from, and I meant to track it down yesterday, but I saw some graphic that had a quote talking about McCarthy and Murray and how they, like, don't necessarily get along.
That
I can't.
Yep, that's a good point. If you want to go searching for that, you can. But that's a super good point, because as Collar and Alec Lewis were pointing out yesterday when they were talking about it, as the backup quarterback, you are supposed to, your number one job is not thinking about, man, what can I do to get that QB1 job? Like, what do I have to do? Like, your number one job is, how do I help the starting quarterback prepare for this game? And then how do I, on top of that, make myself ready in case I have to end up going in? And that is your mindset, and needs to be your only mindset as a backup quarterback. J.J. McCarthy has been the best player on his football team pretty much since the sophomore year of high school when he beat out the kid at IMG Academy. And is he capable of really fulfilling that backup quarterback role? And that's, I mean, that when you talk about things that you can dig in deeper and go, wow, I could see that being a problem without J.J. McCarthy actually throwing a hissy fit. Like, J.J. McCarthy doesn't have to demand a trade out. He doesn't have to cry. He doesn't have to go to media for that part of it to be a problem. If he's not supportive enough of the starting quarterback, of Kyler Murray, on a week-to-week basis, if you feel like you could get somebody in there, even Max Brosmer, let alone Carson Wentz or whoever, but you could get other people in there who could help get Kyler ready better than J.J. McCarthy could. And not only that, but it just seems like J.J. McCarthy just kind of he's not comfortable, not interested in playing that role. Then that is more of a under the surface, quiet, serious issue that would have to be addressed and could possibly lead to him being traded too. Like, when you think about what could Collar and Alec Lewis be talking about when they are kind of floating these little nuanced, there could be some issues. You bringing that up sparks, like, that could be something in my mind that they would. It'd be hard to come out and say that because you don't necessarily know. Like, you can't say, well, J.J. McCarthy is not going to be a supportive QB2. You don't really know that. But if the coaching staff or people inside the building are just kind of concerned about that on a surface level, and when Lewis and Collar and they have conversations with their sources, I could see that as being, well, we just don't really know. Like, is he cut out to be a QB2? Like, is he really going to play that Nick Mullins role? Because a QB2, that's what you really need. That's kind of what we're, like, waiting to see. Can he do that? If it wouldn't surprise me, listening to Collar and Lewis from that show, if that is one of the sort of things that they're hearing that's making them go, I'm not really sure if this is going to be okay behind the scenes, but they can't necessarily come out and say, yeah, J.J. McCarthy just isn't happy being the backup, or he's going to demand out. Like, it doesn't have to be that much of a escalation. So I could see that being one of their concerns behind the scenes for sure.
Yeah. I found it. I'll read a little clip of it. It's Ben Lieber on the Power Trip via Bring Me the Sports, Bring Me the News. What is the energy like in the locker room? What is the energy like in the quarterback room? That's Ben Lieber. They have to do a vibe check on what the locker room is like and what their relationship is like, because clearly it's not a great relationship from a personal standpoint. That's been known since day one. So how does that look now? And then the article continues and has another snippet here. Talks about the culture that Teasley wants, blah, blah, blah. And then, I don't know, man. I think hopefully it's been addressed and hopefully it can be worked out. But on the outside looking in, it doesn't look like a healthy situation. So that's Lieber on Murray and McCarthy's relationship, which necessarily I didn't even play that into factor until I remembered seeing this yesterday. But it just like sort of all makes sense that it would have to be a trade. And I mean, even a wave, but if you could get 6th or 7th, which I guess is all you could really get, wouldn't you rather have that than nothing?
Well, I mean, that's, yeah,
So
that would be the idea. And then you can, again, it looks even worse. Like, does a 7th round pick or a 6th round pick really matter in the grand scheme of things? Probably not, because the chances of that 6th round pick actually hitting is not very good. So it's really not even that much of a difference compared to, I mean, it'll be a little bit financially, because in a trade, the team that's getting J.J. McCarthy is going to eat at least part of his salary. And if you waive him, then you have to pay everything that's guaranteed. So that part of it would come into play. So the Wilfs would obviously like to see him traded just for that reason alone. But just the look of it, like, to say that you traded him, forever it goes down in the history books as you had to trade J.J. McCarthy because he failed, not you had to straight up waive J.J. McCarthy. Like, first round picks getting waived 2-3 years later is just so rare. Like, look at Lewis C.
Well, especially, I mean, even a quarterback. It's
especially at quarterback, dude.
I mean, it happens.
You just don't give up on quarterbacks like that. You sit them on the end of your bench, and you try and trade them down the road. And that's the one thing that I'll continue to say about the anti-stance to trading J.J. McCarthy is, like, if he is QB3 and he is the scout team quarterback for the rest of this year, he will, by default, gain trade value by the end of the season, because there won't be the negative stuff around him. In fact, there might be some
when you
positive
get injuries
stuff.
I mean, that would lead me to think that, if they talk and they say, hey, just be our QB3 and be quiet, and when someone gets hurt this year, which inevitably happens, and someone wants to shed out a 5th round pick for you, or a better 6th, then we'll do it. So just, let's all play buddy in front of the cameras, and then and obviously, and nothing, don't say shit behind closed doors, because that, or, to sources, because that at the same time is not going to bring your trade value up. If people are talking shit about you or you're demanding out, that's not going to help your trade value.
Well, and then you get the random report in week 6 that J.J. McCarthy looks really good on the scout team, and another random report in week 12, and then you get a,
not 12, because the trade deadline would be passed. But
my point is that, like, he's unlikely to, even if you don't trade him this year.
Yeah.
Like,
but I'm assuming he would not buy into that if it's for an entire season, rather than like wait until the 1st or 2nd or 3rd.
So then it comes. Then again, you're circling back around to, is J.J. McCarthy going to be okay with sitting and being QB3 or not? And if he's not, then that brings in a whole another variety of questions. But in a perfect world where he is willing to just sit out, take his L, and get better, because that's the thing too. Playing an entire season, because being QB3 doesn't just make you the second backup of the team. It makes you the scout team quarterback, which means you are going against the first team Vikings defense every single day at practice. Max Brosmer played against the Vikings first team defense every single day last year in practice because he was a scout team quarterback.
It didn't help.
It didn't help Max Brosmer, but the hope would be that it will help J.J. McCarthy. And so, like, having those reps against the first team defense all year long will help him. And guess what's going to happen? Me saying that right now, that's projection. But guess what's going to get reported in week 8 and week 14? Man, J.J. McCarthy is getting a lot of good looks from Brian Flores in the first team defense. And 2 days ago at practice, he threw 3 touchdowns. Looked great. We're not going to mention how 4 days ago at practice, he threw 4 touchdowns and looked like shit. But he was great 2 days ago, and he's getting a lot of great looks from the first team defense. Like, those kinds of reports, I know it sounds dumb, but that has a lot to do with when you're talking about, am willing to trade a 5th rounder or a 7th rounder? Like, yes, if you're talking 2 first-round draft picks and 2 second-round, like a Sam Darnold haul, what we would have been asking for Sam Darnold back in the day, like, yes, that's not going to be something where, well, we're just going to take it based off of these random reports that we see and think that you got better. But when it comes to possibly getting a rehabilitated franchise quarterback back on your roster before anybody else realizes that he might be on the come up again, that is worth a 5th round pick instead of a 7th round pick, or a 4th round pick instead of 2-6. Like, because quarterbacks, we all know they don't grow on trees, especially good ones. So if you think you might be getting a possibly rehabilitated McCarthy and you believe in your coaching staff and the Vikings are going, look, we're not doing it for a 6th, but we'll do it for a 7th. He looks really good. He's had all year, blah, blah, blah. You might pull the trigger on giving a 5th or whatever. So, like, it does make sense to me. The best case Ontario is definitely that he just accepts it and whatever role he ends up with and stays on roster, and just sitting on the scout team by itself will make his trade value go up higher than it is right now. And who knows, like you said, maybe there's a couple injuries. Week 13, week 14, he comes in, he doesn't look horrible. Doesn't look great, but looks like a better version of the McCarthy than what we saw in the preseason. Well, now we've got a whole different can of worms to talk about when it comes to the offseason and possible trades, and if he gets on the field and looks decent. So they're really, if all you're going to do is waive him, then there's no lower you can go. His worth, his asset value is at bottom barrel. It is not getting any lower. You don't trade an asset when it isn't going to go any lower unless you absolutely are forced to. So that's, again, where it comes down to. It's up to J.J. McCarthy and how he handles it, because it just doesn't make sense for the Vikings to trade him on paper in a vacuum. You can't make it make sense, to be honest. The only place it makes sense is when you get out of the vacuum and you realize, oh, well, he's causing problems in the background, he's pouting, whatever, and then it starts to make sense. But in a vacuum, you can't make it make sense to trade him right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess, unless there is the behind the scenes issues, then you have to trade him.
Well, right, for sure, and that's where, again, the whole thing blows up. And if he gets traded, we'll know that that's why. They're not just going to trade him because, oh, we got a great offer, guys. We got a 7th and we got a 6th this year and a future 7th in 2032. Great offer. We just couldn't turn it down. No, if they trade him, it's because it's not going to be okay in the locker room. So we'll know. But if they don't, then, again, and he takes it like a man, accepts it, says, this is my fault. I'm the one who failed. I'm the one who didn't live up to the expectations. I need to get better. Then obviously the best thing to do is to keep him. But yeah, right now I'd put it 50-50. Honestly, I have no idea where it's going to go.
Right. All right, let's move on to Caleb Banks. So we touched on a little bit, so I don't think we need to dive super into it, I guess. We will. But I'll go over the article here. Our article, basically. So Tony Pauline for Essentially Sports wrote an article on Caleb Banks called Sources: Current Vikings Regime Questions Decision to Draft Caleb Banks. So read a few snippets here, starting with Pauline saying, sources tell me some in the front office believe the prior regime should have gone in a different direction with the 18th pick, and feel Banks will not offer them the immediate impact needed. They have not been impressed with the lineman, as he's been inconsistent on the field. After firing general manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah in January, assistant GM Demetrius Washington and senior personnel executive Jamal Stevenson were among the bigger names the franchise cut loose in June, more than a month after April's draft. Some of the newer decision makers now running the organization are questioning that group's choice of defensive lineman Caleb Banks in the first round. And the final one, when all the world was predicting the Vikings would take a defensive back in the first round, I wrote that sources were telling me defensive coordinator Brian Flores wanted pass rush help in the opening frame, and that's what they hope Banks will do. Flores carries a lot of weight in the Vikings organization. So putting that all together would tell you that Flores wanted Banks, and the old, Rob Brzezinski and co. were happy to take Banks at the behest of Brian Flores, and current sources from Pauline within the front office are not exactly thrilled with his production thus far.
Yeah, I was shocked, honestly, to read this. Pauline isn't like the, number. It's not like Adam Schefter writing about this by any means. But Pauline's a legitimate reporter, been covering the league for a super long time, multiple different outlets, worked more like mainstream media like back in the day, but was one of the ones who was hit early by more mainstream media cutting costs. And now since he's worked for Sportskeeda, he even, I believe, did some work for Sportsnet for a little while. And then also, and now he's with Essentially Sports. But I was shocked, not necessarily that people have been disappointed in the organization with Caleb Banks, because he's had some struggles. He's looked good a few times, but for the most part, it's been a struggle bus for him this preseason, out of shape, having issues with pad level, getting run over, especially against the run. So he's had his issues. That's not necessarily surprising. What's so surprising to me is that it's singled out as essentially Teasley's people, because it's the new regime. So Teasley's hired 5, 6, 7 people that have been reported that we know of, big time decision makers in the front office, assistant GMs, head of player personnel, whatever, guys like that. So those 5 to 10 people, maybe people within that group, do not like Caleb Banks. The article kind of tries to point it towards Kwesi and the people who were left here after he was gone and then were fired post-draft. But, I mean, everything that we're led to believe is that Rob Brzezinski ran point on the draft. Rob Brzezinski's still there. Most of the scouts that worked on that draft, still there. Most of the front office personnel that worked on that draft, still there. So,
I mean, I know that they got rid of more than were just named, don't you think? I think that's...
I want to say you're right, but look, I mean, an entire NFL scouting department has 50 people in it. They haven't fired 35 people, 40 people. Most of the people in that scouting department are still going to be Rob Brzezinski, probably people who have been in the Vikings front office, working in the scouting department for decades, because I know that a lot of the people in the Vikings scouting department have been working there for a really long time. So, anyways, it's the fact that it is essentially firing shots across the bow within TCO Performance Center. And then, as you mentioned, at the very bottom, after it blames 2 people and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who Kwesi was never here for the draft, was gone months before the draft. But after it blames all of them, it blames Brian Flores as being, like you said, a main pusher for Caleb Banks. So now we've got shots fired from the Teasley group, supposedly, at Brian Flores. So I've got people coming at me on Twitter and going what is this, schism, clickbait, whatever. I don't know what else you would call this.
I get that. Well, I guess what I would say is Pauline's pointing back to his reporting back in the offseason. I wrote that sources were telling me defensive coordinator Brian Flores wanted pass rush help in the opening frame.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say about how he he brings it up. I'll let you read it quick, but keep going.
Well, no, I mean, I just read it. It's not about how he brings it up.
It is about how he brings it up to me, because to me, he brings it up as, why is this happening? Or who else made the decision, whatever. And then he goes, let's go back to my reporting before.
Well, right, yeah.
If Tony Pauline talked to those same sources and they didn't bring up Brian Flores, it would be downright journalistically irresponsible for him to have the Brian Flores stuff in there.
Right.
He brings it up that way to make it seem like, and obviously calls himself back to make himself look good, pat himself on the back, but also because he got Brian Flores' steam out of his reporting now, and that was an easy transition. If he includes that and is not getting in Brian Flores' steam right now from the same sources who are bringing up Kwesi and the old front office members, then it's irresponsible, because it's pointing the limelight right at Brian Flores, when if he isn't getting that steam, then he shouldn't be putting it in there. So it reminds me of last year, where they were reporting that there's there seems to be some sort of they didn't say schism. I think in the article, I just love the word schism. It just gets people going. But so I wrote it into my headline, but it was a synonym for schism. And then the like the next week, remember Jonathan Greenard, because they won that game, and Jonathan Greenard got up on his high horse and was like, oh,
Yeah, and
everybody
said
thinks
there's
that
none of
things are
that.
bad in the locker room and blah, blah, blah. And as it turned out, things were not that great in the locker room. So it kind of reminds me of like the early, when we started to hear it back then. Like, it just kind of seems out of nowhere. And it's just weird because they just got in there a few months ago. Like, why else would you put this out into the press unless you're trying to start shit? Like, we know Brian Flores already had issues with Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. That's been reported. So, like, he's had issues with other coaches. It honestly, and I wrote it like this in my article, it makes me a little bit nervous. Like, Brian Flores is hands down the best defensive coordinator in this league. The only reason why he's not a coach is because he is suing the NFL, or he would be a head coach and he wouldn't be here. So, like, it just makes me a little bit nervous. We're all praising this Nolan Teasley hire, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't. But if you made me choose between 5 years of Brian Flores and 5 years of Nolan Teasley, I would jump on 5 years of Brian Flores.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there can't be a way that he wasn't like, I mean, he was in on some of it.
Oh, I agree that he was in on some of it, but don't you think it's kind of fucked up that people inside of the building are the ones calling him out for it? That's fucked up.
I meant in on bringing in Teasley. So I feel like,
no,
like,
I don't
know. I
don't
almost
think
find
it
it hard to.
was.
Oh, sure.
I think it was. I think it went
like,
down to Kevin. I think Kevin O'Connell is as far down the totem pole as that guy.
That it even could be true, I guess.
What? That what could be true? Oh, Caleb's having issues with his sound.
No, I can hear you now. What'd you say?
You were saying you said something to be true. Whatever you said, right? Right.
Yeah. I mean, I said I basically like have a hard time believing it. I have a hard time like believing that the article is that his sources are correct on this one. Not that his sources are bad,
but that's kind of my thing too. I feel like most of the time when those types of reports come out, it is human nature, and you see it especially from fans who don't want really a lot of drama surrounding their football team in the first place. It is just human inclination to go like, nope, that's totally out. That's out of total left field. You're making this up. But to me, a lot of times those end up being the reports where 6 months from now, at the end of the season, if everything goes wrong and Brian Flores says, fuck this, I'm out, we're going to point back to right now and go, remember that report where Nolan Teasley's people called out Brian Flores?
Yeah. And it's happened countless times where it's turned out to be right. I mean, think about McCarthy and just all the things that we've heard going back years, about how.
I mean, would it shock anybody if Brian Flores had more fucking issues with people inside of an employment center?
No,
same thing in Miami,
wouldn't.
same thing. Like, everywhere he goes, like, he just rubs certain people the wrong way. He doesn't rub KOC the wrong way, because KOC can handle anybody and everybody. He's Mr. Kumbaya. I can get along with anyone except for maybe JJ McCarthy.
Maybe.
But everywhere else, he has struggled, and I feel like Kevin O'Connell's probably does a lot of smoothing over with him and other coaches and him and people in the front office. And Kevin O'Connell
know that he did
knows
with him
he needs
him and that one guy, Mike Pettin.
Yeah, and Kevin O'Connell knows he needs him. Right?
Well,
because KOC had 1 year without Brian Flores. And if you'll remember, the Vikings defense was the worst in the league. And we were thinking at the time, man, if they just had a decent defense, this team would be pretty fucking good. They went and got Flores. Since the defense has been dominant, now the offense hasn't been able to get on trash.
Well, that's the thing. You can afford to lose them if you're putting up 40 points a game, which hopefully that's the case. But
well, right. But even the thing that Brian Flores' defense gives you is like the same thing that it felt when Zimmer was in his prime years. Like, we're going to have a top 10 defense. Our offense just has to be decent, and we're a playoff team.
Yeah. Yeah, you could win every game, not every game, but damn near every game with 14 or 17 points,
right,
which is what we did for most of the Zimmer era.
Yes, and that's the thing. Like,
before Kirk.
If you have a defense that if you put up 21 points, you're going to win 90% of those games, it is such an advantage. It's an advantage that 90% of the league does not have. Like, they do not go into every single game knowing, hey, if we can score 21 points, 25 points, this game's a lock. Like 90% of the time, this game's a lock. Most teams don't have
too
that.
bad we can never do it in the playoffs.
Well, we can't do anything in the playoffs. Let's fucking get back to the playoffs first. I'm not
No, for sure.
I
They always do talk about that, like how Kevin O'Connell's up against the wall because he hasn't won a playoff game. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but we got to get back. I mean, he's probably thinking at the very least I have to get back.
Here's what I'll say about that, and I'm just not on that train. I'm just not.
I know I'm not. I wasn't saying.
I know that you know I'm not
riding it necessarily. But.
I know that you know I'm not. But my thing about that whole conversation is that if you're the Wilfs, you should know. Everybody else tells you, hey, Kevin O'Connell's a QB whisperer. Kevin O'Connell is the next great head coach. You've had Kevin O'Connell in your building for 4 years. You know exactly who Kevin O'Connell is, what kind of coach he is, how he resonates with players, how his, like the stuff that we question, how much of not being able to get away from the pass game and just never being willing to run even when he says he's going to run. How much of that is on Kevin O'Connell? How much do you think that he can change? They know the answers to that question. We don't. Those are just things that we wonder, right? Like they know more than us. If you're the Wilfs, you need to know at this point because I really do think it's possible Kevin O'Connell in 20 years will be known as one of the greatest coaches to come through the NFL because of how he handles people. From what we hear, he's not the guy that we get in front of the microphone to players. He cusses them out, chews them out, eats difficult conversations for breakfast like PJ Fleck, right? But he handles the media. He is patient with all the little shit that comes up as a coach that Mike Zimmer hated, that 90% of coaches hate, that Kevin O'Connell probably hates too. He handles all of that stuff better. If he can figure out the X's and O's and all of that, which we think that's what we brought him in for, there's no reason why Kevin O'Connell should not be able to succeed. So if you're the Wilfs, this season should not be, oh man, if Kevin O'Connell, if we lose again, then Kevin O'Connell's on the hot seat. If you believe in Kevin O'Connell like I think the Wilfs do, it's going to have to be like we had 3 straight losing seasons. The last one, we went 4-13. Like this, it doesn't matter how much we believe in him.
I don't think
it just isn't working. I think it will, to be honest. I just don't think the Wilfs are ever in a big hurry to change out coaches, especially if they believe in them. Look at how long they let the Zimmer and Spielman shit go on. So, like, I don't think that they're in any hurry to get rid of O'Connell. And I just think that they love O'Connell. And I talk a lot of shit about O'Connell. I spent a whole episode talking shit about O'Connell and the stuff that bothers me about him. But when I look like, if we fired O'Connell, he would have a head coaching job the next day. That says something. And when you look at the landscape, even if the Vikings had a horrible season, I just don't, like, who are you going to go out and get? Because now if you get rid of O'Connell, that puts the whole Brian Flores thing. He might not want to play for another coach. We don't know who he can get along with and who he can't. Like, you're blowing up your entire franchise. I don't know. You got to be sure on O'Connell if you're going to let him go. I'm just not into that whole idea of like he's on the hot seat because he hasn't won a playoff game. Well, guess what? Guess how many playoff games the Vikings have been to like over the last 20 years? It's not that many. Like, guess how many we've won? Not that many. Like, there are things, once you get to that place, there is just so much going on. Like, sure, if O'Connell stays in place for 10 years and loses 6 playoff games, you might be forced into, but like, to think that you are going to make a decision not based on everything that a guy does, not based on what you see when you come to work every single day, not based on the last 4 years of overall, overarching, can this guy coach? You're going to go, well, we've made it to the playoffs 2 or 3 times, and he hasn't won. So that's it. We're measured on Super Bowl victories. Oh, really? Are we? Are we measured on Super Bowl victories? Because the last time I checked, we don't have a Super Bowl victory. The greatest Vikings coach of all time, Bud Grant never got a Super Bowl victory. Are you going to go back in time and fire Bud Grant after he loses all these Super Bowl games? Like, they did that. Guess what? They brought him back. They rehired him again. So I'm just like, you should know. Like, you are the owners. You should know. Do you have a good coach? And they've gone through Mike Zimmer. They've gone through before Mike Zimmer. They've been through half dozen head coaches at this point. Like, you should know. You're no longer green to owning a football team. You should know. Do you have a good football coach or do you not? This whole idea that O'Connell's on the hot seat because he can't win a playoff game. Like, come on.
Oh, good stuff. All right. Last thing, Vikings. You have to be quick.
Yep.
Harrison Smith, any thoughts on the latest update we got from Kevin O'Connell, which is that they are in contact weekly, basically, and they have been this week.
I think he's coming back. I think that they're just hiding it after hearing that.
Yeah, I feel like if they didn't think he was coming, he probably just puts it to bed.
Yeah, you just shut it down by now. What's
it's like the season's about to start. We can't keep fucking doing this unless he's really coming in for a week 4 fucking comeback story.
Or but that's what I mean. That would be an already pre-planned thing. I don't see this situation right now as being unresolved internally. Like, what they're trying to sell us, that Kevin O'Connell just hasn't really talked to him that much about it, just brought it up like for the first time in their last conversation, and before that they've just been talking about golf and life and you know, like whether or not Pluto should be a planet. Like, I am not buying that that's where we're at in the process. Like, I 100% believe that they already know whether or not he's coming back, and if you assume that they know, then really the only road it leads you to is that he's coming back. Because if they know and he's not coming back, they've already announced it, and he's not coming back. Yeah. We're moving on with life. So, I would say I don't know when it'll happen. It could be right after, like on Monday after the preseason game. It could be a week before the regular season starts. It wouldn't even shock me if it was, like you said, week 3. But, I would say at this point, 75% chance he comes back.
I'd still put it more around, I don't know, 50 to 60 maybe, but all right. That does it for Vikings.
Wow.
Let's go to the Twins.
Vikings only took an hour, 58 minutes.
Yeah, that's it. So now we got to move quickly. Twins lose the series in Oakland, lose last night, dropped 2 of 3. Connor Prelip pitched like 5 1/3 inning, I believe, gave up 4 runs or so. That's just off the dome, so hopefully I got that right, but we're gonna check.
Connor Prelip?
We had 3 home runs in the first freaking 3 innings. Kalen Culpepper was one of them. Here we go. Prelip 5 1/3. Like I said, okay. 3 earned runs on 6 hits, 5 Ks. And Derek Shelton blasted him after the game. I don't know if you ended up listening to the
I have not.
To the interview with him on. Well, I don't have it up. We were listening. We were hanging out, talking on Discord last night when he was on the post game or whatever, and Shelton just kept saying he left way too many pitches over the middle. He left way too many pitches over the middle. He left way too many pitches over the middle. He said it like 3 freaking times, and it was like, okay, well, Shelton's pissed that Prelip left too many pitches over the middle.
Yeah, I do remember.
The Twins still led 4-3. Let's see, 4. Yeah. The Twins led 4-2 heading into the bottom of the 6th, and then Andrew Morris gave up 3 runs, and then the Athletics added another one in the 7th, and the rest was history. So the Twins are down to 64 and 70. Pretty tough position to be in if you're trying to make the playoffs. Like 3.5 games back of the wild card now. Byron Buxton's might as well have a broken leg, and Joe Ryan threw a simulated scrimmage yesterday at Target Field, but we know that he
live
has
BP one in live BP.
Same difference, but then we know he's gonna have rehab stints, either with AAA or whoever. So or not rehab stints, rehab stint. Don't know how long it's going to be or whatever. It was just the last report we got was the ominous report, or actually it was the semi, what do you think? Positive report after we weren't necessarily sure. So let's go overall state of the Twins real quick on the Joe Ryan thing, and then we'll touch on Walker Jenkins in that whole situation. But how are we feeling after leaving Sacramento with the big off day today? Really good. Everyone can get rejuvenated, hopefully.
This is the end.
I hope people can read my sarcasm. Otherwise, it'll just be one of those.
The end.
Barehanded throw by Pocho and got him.
How
about that?
How about it?
Yeah, it's over, fam. The Twins are now 4 games back in the wild card. Talk to me again, Goose, when they sweep the White Sox.
Hey, there we
starting for tomorrow. Then we can get back into this conversation because, like I said to you yesterday, I didn't expect them to sweep the Atlanta Braves, and then they did and kind of put themselves back in it. They need something like that to happen again. You do it against the White Sox who are leading the division, then you never know. But if they go back to Target Field tomorrow and lose 2 out of 3 to the White Sox, now you're 5-6 games back in the wild card. And at this point, they have 4 teams between them and the final wild card spot, which is currently held by Cleveland. So it's like 4 games this deep into the season is kind of a lot to begin with. But what makes it more scary is how many teams are starting to pile up in front of them, because not only do you have to win games, you need other teams to lose games, and the more teams you get in between you and where you need to go, well, sure, 2 of those teams might lose that night, but 3 of them might win, and now you don't gain any ground on those teams. It's just harder to gain that ground when you got more teams ahead of you. So I just... like I said, barring a miracle, they go and sweep the White Sox. They win 5 out of 6 at home in the 6-game home stretch between Chicago and Detroit. Then we can start having these conversations again. But right now, they've lost 5 out of their last 6. They've lost 4 out of their last 5 series, I think. They've been swept in 3 out of their last 5 series, something like that. It's just not looking good. And then, as you mentioned, Byron Buxton's going to be out now, maybe. I read in the story today, I think it was Hayes maybe, but that he's not getting an MRI. It's like he just doesn't. He doesn't want to know. Like, he clearly doesn't. Like, he even said he's like, it's clearly more serious than I thought it was after, like, because of that pain that he felt yesterday when he reached for that ball. But it said in there that he didn't get an MRI, and it didn't say that he plans on getting an MRI. So it's like he's just going to play when he feels good enough to play.
Right.
And because he knows it's late in the season. So
when they realize that that's not going to work after he has to pull himself out of 2 out of the next 5 games, like,
or if he doesn't play Friday,
then it's bad that they didn't put him on the IL.
Well, but they can run back the dates on the IL. So
they can, but you're not going to help get a replacement up here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would say that if he's not gonna be ready by, let's say, the start of the Detroit series on Monday, I would imagine by that point they send him to the IL and probably bring up Walker Jenkins.
Wow, I don't know why you'd want to. I mean, I like watching Luke Keeschel in center.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yep.
I think, if you could pull up the clip, that'd be great. But 3-run triple, 2-run triple last night that gave the A's the lead was a triple over Luke Keeschel's head and center.
Here's the clip. It doesn't have any sound because Ted's the only one who clipped it, and for some reason, Ted, when he does his Twins clips, doesn't include sound. I don't know why. We've meant to ask him about that, and it just never comes up until like right now. And I'm like, oh, it sure would be nice to have this clip have sound, but the sound is on. As you can see, there is no sound.
It doesn't matter. The sound doesn't matter.
Yeah,
just talk over it. Do your best, Corey Provis.
All right. So Keeschel hit over his head.
Why do you say that?
Remember. Hey, kids. Caleb, you play outfield, right? I never played outfield. I mean, I played a little bit of
Once in a
outfield,
while.
but I played. Caleb's a lefty, so he was stuck to outfield and first base because he's
That's right.
dumb-handed.
Exactly.
But Caleb, when you were in maybe T-ball, but let's go like Diamond Giants or something. What was the first thing that they taught you as an outfielder?
I don't know if we did outfield work in Diamond Giants.
All
Probably, I know I did a lot of drop steps and a lot of
How about
step always back.
Yes, first step always back. Somebody should have taught Luke Keishkall first step always back.
Well, the problem
Oopsies.
Luke Keishel. I mean, that's how they say it. I don't know why you're the only one that says it weird, but
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't
and
Candace
I mean,
Owens me.
he's yeah. Hey, oh my God, don't. Here we go again. We got a political show. I might have to just walk off the set. I said no politics, and here he goes. No, I mean, he never really was an outfielder, right? I mean, he was a second baseman. So then you're just throwing him in the outfield and praying to hope it works.
I just got this playing on repeat in the background. It's brutal.
Oh, good. I guess it's not going to help stop any fans that are begging for Walker Jenkins, who you think should, again, be stuck in AAA for the next 7 years and prove that he really has to, he's really got it.
I thought we had
I
thought yesterday on Discord, Caleb, we had a very productive conversation on this
No, we
topic.
did. We did. I just had to take that shot at you. But no, we definitely did. We came to an understanding, basically. We understand each other's sides.
We understand. We agree to disagree.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. You could see the concern. You don't want to call someone up too early, and especially a guy like that. Especially now, I mean, it's almost like you have no shot at making the playoffs, so what's the point? But if you're the Polads or you're Tom and you're supposedly trying to win back the fans, even though you automatically gain their trust back at the trade deadline. We know that. You told us that. You told us that the fans should, help you out since you really added to the roster at the deadline. So then at least you would think that they would necessarily call up Jenkins, who's hitting, 5,000 in the last month with 72 bombs and 69 RBIs.
It's a pretty good month.
I can't even believe it. I see the numbers every day and it shocks me every time. But so anyways, Eric still, he'd rather not. But and I, like I said, I can get it now that, I mean, if you're not going to make it, and then, there's the conspiracy theory about wanting him to be able to play minor league ball next year when there's a lockout.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that.
There's been quite a bit of that. Bobby Nightingale didn't hint at it at all, but he brought it up in the Walker Jenkins article, profile, whatever you want to call it. Basically said, there's people online that think it's a grand conspiracy for the 2027, probable lockout or whatever. And
if Walker Jenkins doesn't get called up this year, then I'd say those people are probably right. It's very plausible that those people are right. But like I said, and like I've told you, you'll never really hear me begging for a prospect to come up. It would have to be so egregious because I've just seen too many prospects come up and be busts or not be ready, and not just in our organization. It happens all over baseball. You add the fact that Walker Jenkins came straight out of high school, which makes the jump even more difficult.
I mean, we looked at some of the numbers and some of the stuff. It's pretty clear, especially, I mean, not everyone, right? But a lot of hitters and mostly high school guys struggle right away when they get to the big leagues. If it happened relatively quickly, Jackson Holiday and Jordan Walker were two of the names that came up.
And that doesn't mean that Walker Jenkins would struggle like that. And we all hopefully. We all hope that wouldn't be the case,
everyone's
but it is
look
plausible.
at Kalen Culpepper. But it's just a different
Kalen Culpepper came
situation.
from college.
Came from college. He's 24 years old.
And Walker Jenkins is only 21. So,
Right. And, I mean, the professionalization of baseball in college is, to the 10th degree that high school baseball is more like the majors or more like pro ball than it was back in the day.
And nowadays, especially now, and this maybe wasn't the case as much when Kalen Culpepper was playing college ball, had Walker Jenkins gone to college. But in today's day and age, college baseball is more like pro baseball than ever before because a lot of kids are obviously getting paid. But the fact that kids are getting paid and some of the best kids who are underclassmen can make just as much money in college as they can in the pros means that you're also, over the next decade, going to get better players in the college ranks. If you are,
if you're Larnick, sure.
if you're Larnick and you're playing at Oregon State and going and winning the national championship like he did the year before the Twins drafted him, going through that,
you're staying for the
going through that tournament right now, you're going to face way better competition because they're all going to be guys at LSU and guys at Cal Poly and whatever that are making $1 million each that in past years probably went to the pros a year earlier or went to the pros out of high school or whatever it is. Now those guys are in college. You're going to get better competition. It's only going to get and we looked into this a little bit last night, but there's going to be less and less high schoolers taken because it makes more sense to go to college because you can make money there, so it makes more sense for the players. And because you have better, more ready college players coming out, it's going to make more sense to go through the college ranks because I'm going to get drafted higher compared to if I come straight out of high school. Now, I'm maybe getting drafted 10th instead of 2nd. I didn't make $2 million while I was in college, and now my whole career is up in the air, and all I have is my, $1 million signing bonus or whatever to show for it if I don't make it to the big leagues. So it's going more and more towards that. But when it comes to Walker Jenkins, to me, it's just if the Twins think he's ready, then I'm ready. If they don't, then I'm not going to cry about it. And I honestly, if it does have something to do with next year and the lockout, and they feel like the only way to guarantee that he's going to get 500 at-bats next year, if healthy, is to make sure that he can be on the minor league roster, I wouldn't be mad at that either. For all the Twins fans who see the Buxton injury happen, who look at the bats right now and go, man, we could really use power hitting center fielder in the lineup right now. Like when Byron Buxton was at his best, that's MVP caliber player when Byron Buxton is playing at his best and he's healthy. The Twins were a 500 team. So if you're under some sort of illusion that Walker Jenkins is going to come up from AAA and suddenly make the Twins better than when Byron Buxton was healthy and playing at his prime earlier this year, then you're setting yourself up for emotional failure. It's not happening. The chances of it happening are like 0.05%. Like it's because anything can happen, you have to leave it on the table, but it's probably not happening. And so when you're looking at how do I make Walker Jenkins into the best possible player for the Minnesota Twins while he's here over the course of the next 10 years, and you factor in the minor leagues and the possible lockout, I mean, just from a logical standpoint, just off the top of my dome, since you used that terminology earlier, I really can't think of something that makes more sense than keeping him down in AAA for the year and making sure that he gets those at-bats. Because if that is the difference, it's possible that if he's on the big league roster, if he ends the season on the big league roster, and that means that he can't go play minor league baseball next year, if there's a lockout, then I would keep him on the minor league roster. Because from everything that we've heard, a lockout is coming. So if you're the Twins, you need Walker Jenkins to get at-bats next year. Whether it's down in St. Paul, whether it's at the big leagues, it doesn't matter. He needs to play. And if you can't guarantee me that he's going to play if he's on the big league roster at the end of this year, then I'm keeping him down. And to me, that's not even a conspiracy theory. It's just logical. It's smart. It's good. A good way to run your baseball team right now.
Yeah, I don't know what the rule is or whatever, but...
Anyways, we can dive into that rule another time and maybe talk about it on the
Sure.
next show.
Okay, rapid fire. Wolves, Jonathan Kuminga signing, found our starting power forward, number 7th overall pick in, I think it was 2023 by the Golden State Warriors. Was involved in the... Oh, sure. Could be right. Yeah,
Keep
that's
going.
right. I
I'll
think
look it
because
up.
he's been in the league for a few years, but he was involved in the Kristaps Porzingis trade. Him and Buddy Hield were two of the players that went back for Kristaps Porzingis. Didn't have, I guess, the best stats numbers wise, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, his best years in the league, he's like averaging, I don't know, I think he's like 13 or 15 points. He's shooting like 50+% from the field. I mean, just exactly what the Wolves needed or could find at this point in the offseason to fill their position, especially with no money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to act like a Jonathan Kuminga expert by any means, but
Yeah.
he's definitely the best that they could have gotten at the position.
Yeah.
If they weren't going to sign him, the best move was probably just until something shakes out, just move Jaden McDaniels to the 4, at least, in the starting lineup.
Yeah, 2021 was the draft year just for that.
Yep.
By the way.
So I mean, I think it's a great move. I think that if he gets back to the development path that he was on in his first few seasons with Golden State, then it could prove to be a massive move because this is a 2-year contract with a third-year player option. If he plays like the guy that he was drafted to play, the guy who started at Golden State 12 games in his first season, in 23-24, he was averaging 16.1 points per game and 5 rebounds, 2.2 assists in 26 minutes. That is, if he could produce like that for the Timberwolves, that would be a big deal. And if he can then develop and look like a better version of that guy, even, that's why they're signing him. And to get him for $6.5 million, only part of the mid-level exception, it's a no-brainer signing. It's a lucky signing. They got him to take less money to come here.
Yep. It's all because of Ant and the new owner and just
there's
courting.
really nothing that is negative about it unless you're going to go back to earlier in the offseason and say they never should have gotten rid of Julius Randle and Naz Reid for LaMelo Ball. But in the reality that they are in right now, there's really not a better signing that they could have made. Now, what kind of impact does he make? That's to be determined because with a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, he becomes the 4th, 5th option on a team that already has all sorts of scoring depth. Like Rudy Gobert is going to gobble up a lot of rebounds. He's going to gobble up a lot of the inside scoring. He's going to, and then when it comes to
Kuminga's more of a stretch guy anyway.
Well,
so,
okay, I know, but that's I'm getting to that. So then you have Anthony Edwards, you have LaMelo Ball are going to handle the ball a lot. Jaden McDaniels is going to be the third guy. So it comes down to Kuminga as a stretch guy is going to have to hit his corner threes. Can he shoot 40-45% from the corner? If he can, he'll probably average 15 points a game. If he can't, we're going to be frustrated just like we were with Naz, like we have been with McDaniels at times when they can't hit that wide open three-pointer in the playoffs or whatever it is when Ant is double-teamed and he dishes out. So that's what he's going to look like on the Wolves is largely going to depend on what he can shoot from the outside and then what kind of offense he can create for himself when the ball finds him late in the shot clock or whatever it is. I mean, he's not going to be a featured part of the offense. So
yeah, I mean, he's probably going to shoot 34 to 35% from 3, which is what he shot
that's kind of my point, right? Like you look at, he's never shot. Last year he shot 35%. Was 37% in 2022.
Yeah, in 2022. But then, I mean, those years, I mean, you're with Steph and.
But that's kind of the point is that it's kind of the same situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And so,
you're set up for success.
He doesn't have to be a main guy. Now, if you he tried that. You put him on Atlanta last year. He got moved over there, I believe, around the trade deadline. And
yeah, it was in the Porzingis trade. Yeah.
And so it's like here you are here now. You get more of a your starter in both lineups, obviously, but a more featured part.
No, he didn't start for Atlanta. He only
started one game. You're right.
I don't know. He must have been dealing with shit or something. I mean, he only played in 36 games.
But he still averaged 22
started
minutes a night when he did play.
Right. Interesting, yeah.
He only played 36 games total last year. So that's the other thing. He's obviously had issues staying healthy. He played 47 games in 24-25, played 36 games last year. He's only played over 70 games twice. So
yeah, it's fucking injury history, right? I mean,
So, I mean,
2026 left knee bone bruise and hyperextension. Right ankle sprain the year before that.
There's plenty of
Bilateral knee
questions
tendonitis
surrounding him and like how good he's going to be. But when it comes to power forward options on a team that desperately needed a power forward, there wasn't a better signing. And so it's a great signing. What it ends up being, how much we bitch about him when the year starts to roll around and we're 60 games in is TBD. But
TBD.
Right now, it's definitely on paper looks like the perfect signing. So.
Yep. And do you want to touch on anything about the ownership Windhorst commentary, or do you want to hit that tomorrow or something?
I'll just say that the most interesting part about that is that we continue to hear about possible money issues ever since Glenn Taylor sold. This guy doesn't obviously have money issues. Stad or Stod. Windhorst was calling him Stod on his show the other day, so I think it's Stod. He doesn't have money issues, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be willing to invest. What the most interesting parts of that for me was the Vikings. The Timberwolves have taken hits financially in both of the last 2 years, apparently finishing way in the red according to Windhorst. So they're losing money year over year right now, which I thought was incredibly interesting. Now, it's not like Laurie actually lost money because whatever checks he wrote, he got reimbursed and then some.
He got back in his sale and more.
So, I mean, it's kind of like we talk with the Twins, right? Like, what is spending $50 million or going $50 million into the red in a 2 or 3 year basis when your valuations are going up exponentially in the billions, then it doesn't really matter, so
we just got to have the capital,
right? So and we know that he does, like he should. He's like, this is a guy who's, it's not like Laurie and A-Rod. There were questions because Laurie was an individual investor. He went and got his own money, put it into these companies. He didn't always have a lot of liquid assets because he's raising all these companies. And then his second man in charge was Alex Rodriguez, who we know doesn't have billionaire type money. And so that kind of raised all these questions. That's not really a question with this guy. It's more, how much does he care? Does he care enough to lose $50 million in a year? Or is that going to be like, well, no, I'm not. That's bad business just because he's a businessman who doesn't really care about basketball. That's just bad business. Is he going to, be more attuned to that? Not necessarily that he doesn't have the money. So that continually comes up. I'm not as worried about that. But the one thing that came out of that above all else is the Tim Connolly phantom shares.
Yes, how he got basically, and if he finishes out this contract, he basically has the option to liquidate his shares.
I don't even think he needs, that's what I didn't really understand. I don't think he needs to finish out the contract. It just needs
They said he has to finish out the contract.
That's not what Windhorst said, because I went back and listened to it multiple times, and he even said it would behoove him to stay and to work out that contract, but there is that like hanging over the top. Look, if it really did depend on getting to the summer and letting the contract lapse, then there would be no question about whether or not he's re-signing. He wouldn't. Because according to Windhorst, we're not talking $1 million, $5 million. According to Windhorst, we're not even talking $10 million.
But he said 5 figures.
I know. So here's what I'm thinking. 5 figures in front of, so you have...
Sure.
You have 10 million would be the 10000. That's the 5. So he's saying it's 10 million or more, and it's not anywhere close to 10 million. Literally, I think the way that he talks about it, Tim Connolly is waiting this coming offseason for a payment between $50 and $100 million. That is the way that Windhorst described it, because he's like, it's in the 5 figures and it's not $10 million. In other words, it's way more than $10 million. So if it was like, oh, if he re-signs and he doesn't get whatever this huge bonus is, then it would already be decided. He's going to let the contract lapse, and then we'll talk about it after that.
If he completes the full term of his contract, the phantom shares convert into a giant cash bonus. According to ESPN's Brian Windhorst, the payout is described as a very sizable bonus that is heavily in the 8-figure range. With Windhorst specified it is in the 5 figures of millions, meaning tens of millions, clarifying that it is well north of 10 million.
So here's my thing on what you just said.
Yeah.
If you are under the assumption that the Timberwolves' value is going to continue to go up, then you would not want to let your contract lapse, because even if it is huge, even if it is 50 million, let's say, well, you would assume 5 to 10 because they would have to rewrite that into his contract then.
Well, yeah, I mean they might.
And if you're the Timberwolves, I wouldn't do that. There's no way. If you want to let this lapse and you want this big $50 million payment or whatever it's going to be, you're not getting it on the next contract. But it's just like if you own a house, right? Like let's say you bought a plot of land and you threw a nice big house on it, and right there that day it's worth $1 million. Well, now you're in the suburb of a nice city. All these people build around you all of a sudden. Now you've got a big suburban neighborhood, and now all the houses around you are all worth $5 million. Well, are you going to go, okay, I'm ready to get out now, or are you going to go, well, in 5-10 years from now, all these houses are going to be worth $10 million. I'm going to get out then. That to me is intriguing. And I know Tim Connolly, it's not like he's hurting for some extra cash.
Right.
So I almost think that makes it more likely.
Yeah, I mean, I just think they might do it with fresh incentives, but
if anything, they have to talk him out of it, I bet. Like, can we just pay you the money right now?
Maybe. But if they don't want to, if they don't have the cash.
What's that?
If they don't want to spend the cash.
No, but that's what I'm saying is they would probably rather spend the cash now than have to pay him
because it's less. Yeah,
$100 million.
No, for sure. But yeah. I guess I'm not sure exactly. I would have to just.
But that goes back to the money issues, and it's like they're kind of floating these money issues, and now they might owe Tim Connolly $50 million. It's like,
well, yeah. I mean, and they do owe Tim Connolly. Like, I mean, no matter what, this contract is going to end, even if he signs a new extension. So he should get that stuff no matter what.
Well, that's right. Unless the contract has to physically end for him to get his payout. So then they could go, okay, we'll let it lapse. And then the next day we'll sign you to an extension. Or we'll sign you to a new contract. So then he gets his payment and then he gets a new contract.
Well, yeah, that's what he's going to get his payment and then probably sign for fresh incentives.
But if I were him, and if you extend and you don't let the contract end, now it carries over and you continue to build up.
They would probably say no. I mean, it's written in there. It's guaranteed written in there, whatever happens at extension time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But
that they have the option or whatever. The fact that it is very, very crazy.
It is interesting because there's just been this talk about whether or not Connolly's going to extend, and it's been going on now for multiple off
forever,
seasons.
But now we learn about this.
And it's like adds another wrinkle.
From what this Clutch Points piece says, that I mean, it reiterates a lot of shit, but Stott and Connolly have a good relationship and
holding hands, singing Kumbaya.
Basically, yeah, exactly. I was looking at Stodd's net worth Lore's net worth is from 1.5 to 3 to 4 billion, and Stodd's is 5 billion. But I'm assuming Stodd's not actively putting money out there in these new companies and these new ventures. I mean, he is and he isn't not probably Lore is putting up a lot.
I would think that this would be put into it, but I'm guessing it's how much is this investment company worth. And then how much of that company does he own would probably be where a lot of his worth comes from on sites like that. Because I think that company's worth 20 billion or something.
35 to 37.
And so, if he owns 25% of that company because he started it or whatever, then that's probably where most of
he's the founder.
Yeah, that's probably
That's where,
most of his income
exactly.
comes.
That's where, right. So
But,
Right
how
on.
much
All
of that is, again, how much of that is liquid cash? Right now, I have to pay a $15 million signing bonus. Here's a check.
Exactly.
That's...
Well, I mean, it's obviously at a better spot than Lore's was. He was willing to take it over, and Lore probably told him, and then, he not told him, but by the sounds of it, they were already close. So it's like he knew how much they were having to shell out, and he's probably like, "Yep, come to Papa.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Give me over day. I'll take."
And Lori
your
needed
checks,
cash, I think, is what it comes down to. It sounds like
it does, yeah, because of that new wonder thing that he's doing.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, well, Stodd's got this investment company that's managing $35 billion, and I don't.
And that is the question for this whole thing is like Windhorse was kind of floating this idea that Lori didn't just get out because it was a super good business opportunity where he just finished off buying this company a year ago, and now it's worth $2 billion more. So he just was like, well, hell, this is a sweet business opportunity. It seemed like Windhorse was making it more about they have all these payments coming up and luxury tax, and they got to pay Tim Connolly. And so it's kind of, was it more about, I'm going to have to pay out a lot of cash that I don't really want to pay out, so I'm going to bring in somebody else to pay it out? Or was it, this is just too good of a business opportunity for me to pass up? Honestly, I'm not sure it really matters in the grand scheme of things because he's no longer the majority owner, but that question itself just kind of intrigues me. I'd just like to know out of my own curiosity.
Well, here's one last tidbit we can close the show off with. Actually, two. I got one I heard on KFan. Carson Wentz is somehow in on the development of Drake Lindsay. I don't know to the degree, but Paul Allen was. Hey, Mac, you wanted to be on camera. Paul Allen was talking about Brosmer and Lindsay, and because he was talking to JG about the Gophers just in the last few minutes I caught on KFan and mentioned, and he's like, and he mentioned Carson Wentz, and it made me perk my ears up, and then he's like, believe it or not. So, I mean, I'm sure Brosmer said, hey, Carson, come help me,
Yeah, I guarantee. Yeah, it's
mentor
probably
this
something
kid.
like
I don't know to the degree, obviously, I'm sure.
Because Brosmer and Lindsay are like best buds, talk every day.
Yeah,
still,
exactly. And I mean, you live right across town, so I'm sure it's like, hey, Carson, you want to come over to practice with me? Not that he's, coaching him on a daily basis. But that was interesting.
100%. And if you're a guy like Carson Wentz, like, you're not going to be a backup quarterback in the NFL forever. Like,
you're going to be a coach.
You're going to be a coach. And if you're not going to be a coach, then you're going to be a private QB developer and trainer. So, like, it only makes sense to start to get into those circles, start to, like, coach kids up a little bit and all that. So
Right. Okay, second one, Benjamin Albright. He's a big-time Broncos reporter. Big time.
Is he Broncos now? I thought he was a national guy for a while, I think.
I think he's always been Broncos, but he might have always done national stuff. His name has always been Albright NFL, but it's always been host reporter at the Broncos flagship, Broncos Insider. He tweets out, could see multiple QBs on the move in the next few weeks. Tua, Gabriel, McCarthy, Richardson, all have had calls placed on them to varying degrees of interest.
Ah, that's interesting. We've got to get an article up on that.
That's
very interesting. Yeah, I mean, maybe the writing could be on the wall, folks. It just,
hopefully my prediction, I'm gonna do it again. Get you the predictions.
I hope that he doesn't just play baby, but it wouldn't surprise me if
I know. I still I've never really been like a lover of him. I just always been a let's see what happens type of guy, and he's just almost too young to let go. But I mean, I'm definitely fed up with all the shit as well. So
yeah, no, I agree. It's just, it comes back to just classic Vikings, like it just sucks to
can't do anything right.
You go and try and get another fucking franchise quarterback, and then it ends with you can't even get a 7th round pick for him. Like, no team, I know the first thing Brandon would say, no team gets less in trade value than the Minnesota Vikings. Just look at Sam Darnold, look at and Jonathan Greenard is another example. All the other elite edge rushers go for 1st-round picks. We couldn't even get a 2nd-rounder for Jonathan Greenard.
Yeah, he was mad about that one, yeah.
So, like, and then yeah, so I don't know. It's the whole McCarthy situation is extremely frustrating, but if Kyler Murray, just like we talked about earlier, if Kyler Murray plays well, then we'll forget about McCarthy pretty quickly. So
He's the best in the game. Touchdown, Vikings!
all right, that's all we got. As I mentioned earlier, and should mention way more often throughout the show, make sure that you subscribe on YouTube to the Minnesota Sports Fan channel at Real MN Sports Fan is where we are on all social medias. We will be back. Tomorrow's Friday. We've only done one show this week. Well, we did a weekend show.
No, 2.
Yes. So we will be back tomorrow to do another show. So yeah, we'll see you then, and throughout the future weeks as we start to really get into Viking season, and things should hopefully be fun. Hopefully we're not fucking out of the playoffs by like week 10 last year. That was just a disaster. But we're not going to talk about negative things like that. All positivity here on the MSF show, Minnesota Sports Fan. MinnesotaSportsFan.com. I'm Eric. He's Caleb. We will see you next time.